Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. In today's video I'll be showing you a full process of creating this illustration that you see here from scratch, starting by the base sketch, where we're gonna do the sketch using a 5B pencil, which is a soft pencil that allows us to make both very dark lines and also very smooth lines. It's very versatile. After that we're gonna move to the texture part, where we're gonna create textures, and then we're gonna merge all these together in Photoshop. So first I'm starting here with a sketch. I'm just trying to be very loose, putting my ideas to the paper. For this illustration I want to make a scene of a sunny day where we have some sort of a hill with historical old houses on top. We're gonna have a main house, which is gonna be a hotel or some kind of old construction, and this will be our main character. And after we have that one done, we're just gonna keep on building new houses around and building our scene in that way. When I'm making these sketches, I like to go with the flow. I like to make the painting as I go and decide each and every next step based on what I just did. So I don't really know where I'm gonna go or how the sketch will end up looking like, but I like that way because it's always unpredictable and it's always also exciting to see the results. Doesn't work always very good, but most of the times works good, so it just I just need to keep on pushing and to keep the motivation going so I can make a successful sketch. As I said, for this part I'm only using a 5B pencil, which is a soft pencil and is very versatile to make dark lines, also lighter lines. It's just very easy to sketch with this pencil. I'm also using a razor and a sharpener. I like to have the tip of my pencil always very sharp. And that's pretty much it. For paper, I'm just using some kind of recycled paper. It's cheap drawing paper. For these sketches I don't need to use very good paper because this is just a base sketch. I just gonna work this with pencil, so I don't need to use a watercolor paper or something like that. I could use watercolor paper or other kind of paper if I want to take advantage of the texture of the paper, but as you can see here, this paper already have a very nice texture to it. As I said, it's recycled paper, so we already get a very interesting texture to it. And when we scan it to the computer, that texture will be present and you will be seeing that texture on the drawing, on the painting at the end of the process. With that being said, I want to say that sketching on a paper is completely different from sketching on the computer. I could sketch on the computer, but all that information that the paper gives me, also the different nuances that the pencil on the paper give to me, are completely different than a digital brush. It's impossible to get the same feeling, the same detail, the same kind of mark with a digital process. And when we scan it, we really see the difference. When we work further on the details using the Photoshop, you really can understand why I'm saying that, because the depth, the details, the way the lines are marked on the paper, they just add so much more interest to the painting. Now I will let you enjoy a little bit of this process, and I will go back to you when we move to the textures. Now that we got our sketch done, we are moving to the textures. We're gonna create two textures today. One that we will be applying on top of the sketch, so we can have more information in the sketch. And another one we're gonna make for the sky, and then we can just add that texture as the sky when we are close to the end of the process. For these textures, I'm just using watercolor. I'm using the same recycled paper. I don't need to use any fancy papers here. I just want to create a texture, so any paper will give me a result. I don't know if it's a better result or a worse result. This process of making textures is a lot about trying different techniques, different ways of applying color or applying whatever you want to apply to the paper, and just creating the most variety and the most experimental process possible. Since I already had the idea of what I wanted to achieve, I was not so experimental on these textures. I just wanted to create two base smooth textures, one for the sky, as I said, which will be a much more flat texture, and another one with a little bit more noise, a little bit more information that will be used on top of the sketch to add depth and that noise and that information to the sketch. Now that we got our textures done, we are moving to the digital part of the process in Photoshop, where we're gonna mix all of these previous steps. Now we're moving to Photoshop and we're gonna start with the digital part. So first I will introduce you to the tools we're gonna be using during this digital process. The first tool will be the lasso tool, which is this tool here. And what this tool does is allow us to just select areas and make selections in a free way. We can draw wherever we want. And yes, that's gonna be the tool we're gonna be using to work all our details. Combining with the lasso tool, we're gonna be using levels and color balance. The levels, here you can see the menu of the levels. They allow us to change the darkness and the brightness of a selection. As you can see, you can change the middle tones, the highlights, the dark tones. Yeah, you can just play with it. It's gonna be one of those that we're gonna be keep on using during this process. The other tool, as I said, is the color balance, which allows us to change the color. It's here. Then we're also going to be using the dodge tool and the burn tool. These are like brushes. In this case, the burn tool allows us to make darker shadows, just like this. And in other end, the dodge tool does exactly the opposite, allow us to make brighter areas, which is very nice to make these degradés and these nice smooth contrasts. These will be pretty much the tools we're going to be using. Of course, we can add other tools along the way, but these will be the main ones that we're going to be switching and keep on using almost during all the process. So now we're gonna start by deleting the backgrounds. It's very important to do this part very calmly using the lasso tool. This will be the silhouette of our painting, so we really want to have this well defined, and maybe this selection even will add new details when we work further in the illustration. So just do it calmly. Don't try to generate a selection and do it in automatic way. The result is completely different, so just select piece by piece. You get a much more sharper silhouette of the house in this case, which is very important. Just a quick note here, you just have to select the different parts and then just press delete every time you want to delete some selection. You also can keep on pressing shift, and when you do that you also just can keep selecting new things without losing the previous selection. Also, another thing, if you select Alt, you can erase some part of the selections or create negative spaces inside of that same selection. So just try out these functions of the selection tool and see how they work. Now that we got this background done, we're gonna pass to the textures, and we're gonna copy the texture that we made previously, and we're gonna drop it on top of our sketch. We're gonna also drop the opacity to around 40-50%, and in this way we're gonna get much more texture over our sketch, much more information, and this will help us out along the way to create this sense of rendered sketch, and yeah, just gonna help us blending in each and every detail much better. Now, to make our process much simple, I'm gonna start by selecting only the shadows. I already created here a little icon with the sun, so you can understand where I decided where the light source will be coming from, and from that part on, I'm just gonna start to select all the shadows, taking in consideration that light source. This is gonna help us a lot along the way, because we'll just make our sketch much more understandable, much more easy to read, and just gonna give us a lot more motivation as we go. For this, I just use the lasso tool, and I keep on pressing shift, and I keep adding new selections as I go, always taking in consideration the light source. Just have a little bit of patience at this point. This is probably one of the most important parts of the digital process, so take your time and just make sure all your selections are correct, and have a good understanding of where the light source is coming. After having selected all our shadows, we're gonna use the levels to make these parts a little bit darker, and then we're gonna also use color balance to make them a little bit colder, making them a little bit bluish. After this, we're just gonna invert the selection, and we're gonna do the opposite now. We're gonna make the light parts a little bit more brighter, and then with color balance, just a little bit more warmer, adding a little bit of yellow and reds. From now on, we're going to be focusing on working from the bigger to the smaller areas. Here we are starting with the roofs, just selecting the roofs and make them a little bit darker, and using the color balance to make them with a reddish tone. Always using the selection tool combined with the levels and the color balance to render these details. And we're going to work pretty much in this same way till the end of the process. So for this illustration, I wanted to create a scene where we have some kind of historical town on top of a hill. We can see the road going down, and we can see the houses also down this hill. I'm very inspired by the Portuguese old towns, Italian, Spanish old towns as well, and I wanted to create my own here. I just let my creativity flow in the process of making the sketch, and I just create as I go something that is appealing to me and that I see in my imagination. The goal also for this painting was to have a scene where it was very warm, a very calm day in a certain way. I don't really paint characters in my scenes. I want the houses to have all the personality of the characters, and I want the houses to be the characters of the scene itself. So I just focus on the houses. I'm also a little bit weak on painting characters, so that's also a reason why I don't do them very much. I have to force myself to do it more often. But yeah, on this scene I just wanted to create a calm scene where we could see this main house, which is some sort of old hotel here on top of the hill as the main character. And then yeah, it's surrounded by other little houses, and we can see this road that passes in front as if it's spinning around this mountain, and this is the top, and we can go down in both sides actually of the main houses here on top. Towards the end I also decided to add a car going down that hill after the gate, so we have a little bit more of that human presence, and we have some kind of narrative, some kind of storytelling going on. Going back to the process here, as I mentioned before, I'm mostly using the lasso tool to make different selections and to render the composition. This process is quite repetitive, but it's so intuitive. It just makes the work much easier in a lot of ways, because it allows us to experiment with colors without having to select a specific color to paint, which is a big plus. We can just select a different area, go to the color balance and try different colors and see what works and what's not. And since we already defined the shadows at the beginning with that blue tone, we already made a lot of the work easy for us, because now when we add new colors on top, they already gonna have that background color, which gonna help us to make everything more smooth, everything more merged together. And yeah, it's just almost like a hack to make the process much more easy. As I was saying, because we have these shadows that we define in the beginning and these warm tones for the highlights, the harmony on the colors that we're gonna be adding on top of those when we're using the color balance, they will be always influenced by those underneath tones. So they always kinda gonna make sense, you know, we don't gonna have random tones, or also the levels will not be wrong because we already had defined those at the beginning. Now I will let you enjoy the process for a little bit, enjoy the time lapse, and I will come back to you in a little bit. Now we are almost done with the process. I hope you're enjoying this painting so far. I will now show you how to make the sky in a very easy way. We're just gonna grab one of our textures that we made, and this will pretty much be our sky. It's pretty much already done. It looks like a sky to me, so you can see here how good it works already in this scene. We're gonna tweak a little bit the levels and also the color balance, but will be pretty much it. Will be pretty much done just with the watercolor that we made. As I already said, I decided to add a car here because I needed a little bit of narrative, a little bit of a storytelling to this illustration. And for this I just grabbed a part of the textures we made. I just cut a piece out. I made some sort of silhouette of a car, and from that I just start to render with the levels, with the selection, and I just start to make it looking like a car. So this is the final result. I hope you like it. I hope you learned something new with this process. It may seem like a complex process, but after you try it and after you understand some of these tools, it really just speeds up the process of making a painting. It's much faster, and is also very intuitive and very experimental, which I like it a lot. So I hope you enjoy this, and I see you in the next one. Bye!